Hello guys, in the last chapter we completed up to Fourier transform. There we were expressing the signals, mostly aperiodic signals, in terms of complex exponentials. Why we chose complex exponentials was because complex exponentials had the property that they were eigenfunctions of the LTI system. What eigenfunction meant is that if we apply a complex exponential at the input, complex exponential would appear at the output. Okay, so in this chapter what we will look at is that property isn't restricted to complex values only. That is, I will say e raised power st is eigenfunction. Okay, and this s does not necessarily be a imaginary value, because earlier we were saying e raised power j omega t. Okay, so eigenfunction does not, e raised power st will be a eigenfunction where s does not necessarily be a imaginary value. So whenever s is equal to j omega, it will be a Fourier transform. Okay, but here I am saying s can have any value, not necessarily a imaginary value. So what we will write is s is equal to sigma plus j omega. So s is complex value which has real as well as imaginary part. Okay, so this will give us Laplace transform. Okay, so basically Laplace transform is a generalization of the Fourier transform. It is a more generalized transform where we can find its transform for any value of s, not necessarily the imaginary values. Is it fine? So when we will plot, it will be s plane will be plotted something like this, sigma j omega. Okay, for all values of s, this will be called as s plane, sigma and j omega. Okay, so Laplace transform on this j omega axis will be Fourier transform, because whenever s is equal to j omega, it will be Fourier transform. So this line represents Fourier transform and entire plane represents Laplace transform. So this entire plane is corresponding to the Laplace transform. Okay, so let us see how we can find Laplace transform. Xs is equal to generally minus infinity up to infinity xt e raised power minus st dt. Okay, there we were taking e raised power minus j omega t. Here we will take e raised power minus st. So this will be the analysis equation of the Laplace transform. Now if we replace s by sigma plus j omega, sigma plus j omega t dt, then we can separate real and imaginary part. Xt e raised power minus sigma t e raised power minus j omega t dt. Okay, so if we say sigma is 0, then xs would become minus infinity to infinity xt e raised power minus j omega t dt. That is Fourier transform. So Laplace transform would be converted to Fourier transform wherever real part of s is 0. Sigma can also be written as real part of s. So whenever real part of s is 0, that is the imaginary axis, Fourier transform converges to the Laplace transform. So let us see by one or two example how to calculate Laplace transform. Okay, suppose this signal is given to me, ft is equal to e raised to power minus at ut. Then xs would be equal to minus infinity up to infinity e raised to power minus at ut e raised to power minus st dt. So this will be 0 to infinity e raised to power minus a plus st dt. Okay, now if we integrate this, it will be e raised to power minus a plus s upon a plus s from 0 to infinity. Now for this integration to converge, this a plus s value should be greater than 0, because then only the power in exponential would be negative. Okay, so we will say real part of s plus a should be greater than 0. Why it should be greater than 0? Otherwise exponential will have positive power, and at t is equal to infinity it will tend to infinity. So let us substitute the limits considering real part of s plus a is greater than 0. So it will be, when we will put infinity this will go to 0, and when we will put 0 it will be 1. So xs would be 1 upon s plus a, and if we solve this equation it will be real part of s is greater than minus a. Okay, so if we plot this condition on s plane, the condition that real part of s is greater than minus a, suppose minus a is somewhere here. Okay, real part should be greater than minus a, so the region that will be this region. Here real part of s is greater than minus a. This region is called as region of convergence. Region of convergence means the region in which my Laplace transform would converge. Outside this region it will not converge. Is it fine? Because outside that region it will go to infinite, so it will never converge. So that is why whenever we talk about Laplace transform, it is talked about in conjunction with ROC, or the region of convergence. Never a Laplace transform would be specified without specifying its region of convergence. Okay, let us take another example. Here I have been given a signal minus e raised to power minus at u of minus t. So xs would be minus infinity up to infinity minus e raised to power minus at u of minus t e raised to power minus st dt. Now due to this u of minus t, this will be 1 only from minus infinity up to 0. So it will be minus infinity up to 0 minus e raised to power minus at e raised to power minus st dt. So it will be minus infinity up to 0 minus e raised to power s plus at dt. So now for this integration to converge, this real part of s plus a should be less than 0 this time. Okay, why it should be less than 0? Otherwise if you put minus infinity then it would go to infinity. If this is greater than 0 and we put minus infinity here, it will go to infinity, so it should be always less than 0. So then we can say this integration would come out to be 1 upon s plus a. Okay, so again if you see here, the integration or the Laplace transform is coming out to be 1 upon s plus a, but this condition is changed. This will be now real part of s is less than minus a. So if we talk about region of convergence, then ROC would be something like this. Again we will plot minus a here, but this time region is this, where real part is less than minus a. So if you see, two different functions yielded the same Laplace transform. Okay, one was e raised to power minus at ut, other was minus e raised to power minus at u of minus t. Both have the same Laplace transform, but if you see their ROCs are different. So that means to identify, if I give you the Laplace transform and I want to know which signal is it concerned with or which signal's Laplace transform is it, then you need to know the ROC. Okay, otherwise if I give you directly that Laplace transform is 1 upon s plus a, we need to find the time domain signal. You can never find unless you know the ROC, because this Laplace transform is possible for more than one signal. That is why ROC gives uniqueness to the Laplace transform. So my Laplace transform will be called as the Laplace transform, where the indicates the uniqueness. Okay, so it will be the Laplace transform. Is it fine? So the comes due to uniqueness, and uniqueness is provided by the region of convergence. Since we are specifying region of convergence in conjunction with the Laplace transform, it will always be unique. Next term we come to poles and zeros. When we talk about Laplace transform, let us say x of s, suppose it is rational, ps upon qs. I am saying it is a rational function. So ps and qs are polynomials. If we factorize those polynomials, it will be s minus sm upon s minus sa up to s minus s of n. Okay. Now suppose if we keep s is equal to sa, sb up to sn, okay, then denominator would go to 0. That means qs would be 0. It implies xs would be infinite. So such kind of points are called as poles. Okay. So poles of any Laplace transform or poles of any system will basically be the points where the Laplace transform goes to infinite. Basically poles and zeros are related to system. Okay. So they will be concerned with the system transfer function, or we will be talking about Laplace transform of impulse response. Whenever we will take Laplace transform of impulse response, it will be called as transfer function. And when we talk about transfer function, there we will study about poles and zeros. The poles of the transfer function will be given by whenever the transfer function goes to infinity. So what I am saying is, transfer function is represented by h of s. It is Laplace transform of ht. Okay. Laplace transform of impulse response gives me transfer function, and we know yt is equal to xt convolution with ht. Similar to the convolution theorem in Fourier transform, here we also have convolution theorem. So in frequency domain it will be product xs into hs. Therefore transfer function is ys upon xs. Okay. So response upon input gives me transfer function in Laplace domain. So poles of the transfer function can be calculated whenever the transfer function goes to infinity. These points will be called as poles of the transfer function. Hope you now understand the term transfer function. It basically gives the relationship between input and output of a system, and it is nothing but the Laplace transform of impulse response of the LTI system. Okay. Now let's talk about the points in the numerator. So if we keep s is equal to s1, s2 up to any value up to sm, then ps would be 0. It implies my xs would be 0. So these are called as zeros of the transfer function. Okay. Wherever the transfer function goes to 0, it will be zeros of the transfer function, and whenever it goes to infinite, it will be poles of the transfer function. So these are my poles and zeros. Is it fine? Sometimes poles and zeros may be repetitive also. Like if I give a function something like this, xs is equal to k s plus s1 upon s plus s2 square s plus s3. So here if we see, this term is a order 2 term. So when we will talk about poles, we will say s is equal to minus s3 and s is equal to minus s1, s is equal to minus s1. Okay, because this term can be split into s plus s1 multiplied by s plus s1. So if we see, two poles are lying at s is equal to minus s1. So we will say s is equal to minus s1 is a pole of order 2. Okay, since two poles are lying at the same point, the order of the pole will become 2. So this is the order of the pole. Whenever order is 1, like this, s plus s1 has a order 1. So it is called as simple 0. Okay. Whenever order is 1, it is called as simple 0. So s plus s3 will be a simple pole. Otherwise we need to specify the order of poles and zeros. So order is basically number of poles and zeros that lie at the same point. So that we can define as the order, or it is also called as multiplicity. That is, how many multiple times is the pole or a zero occurring at the same point. That is called as multiplicity. Okay, whenever multiplicity is 1, it is called as simple pole or a simple zero. Next, let us talk about ROC. Okay, some properties of ROC, so that you can directly identify the region of convergence. So just now I saw that if the Laplace transform is a rational function, then at the poles of the system Laplace transform goes to infinity. That means at the points which are poles of the system, the Laplace transform does not converge. Okay, but ROC is the region in which Laplace transform converges. That means pole is a point where Laplace transform does not converge. ROC is a point where Laplace transform converge. So it implies that poles cannot lie inside the ROC. Okay. So first property of ROC, we can say ROC does not contain any pole. Okay. Because at poles Laplace transform diverges. It does not converge. But in ROC Laplace transform converges, so no pole can lie inside the ROC. Okay. Next, if xt is a time limited signal, time limited means like we saw the rectangular function. So it was from -1 to 1, let us say. So it is time limited. That is, it is not going up to t is equal to infinity. It is limited in time. That is, it is finite duration. If xt is finite duration, okay, time limited, that means finite duration, and also right sided. Right sided means it exists after a certain value, like unit step function exists after t is equal to 0. So this will be right sided. Okay, that is, it exists to the right of a certain point. Okay, those sort of signals will be called as right sided signal, and ROC for this signal is entire S plane. Okay, it will be entire S plane except S is equal to 0. So you can keep any value of S. XS would be finite except at S is equal to 0. Any value of S is acceptable except the origin. Is it fine? Finite duration signal, and it is right sided. Then the ROC is a entire S plane except S is equal to 0. Similarly, we consider the reverse case, that xt is finite duration, okay, or time limited, but now it is left sided. Left sided means, suppose we take u of minus t, then it exists through the left of origin. Okay, the signal is defined to the left of origin, so it is called as left sided signal. So here ROC is entire S plane except S is equal to infinity. Okay, that 0 is changed to infinite here. So ROC is entire S plane except S is equal to infinity. Okay, then next condition, if we see, if xt is infinite right sided signal, that is, if xt exists between some t naught up to infinity, that is, on the right hand side it goes to infinity, left hand side is finite, so it will be infinite right sided signal. So ROC is right of rightmost pole. Okay, so let me show it what I mean by this statement. Poles will be denoted by crosses on the S plane. Suppose this is one pole, this is other pole, this is other pole. Now if xt is infinite duration right sided signal, then ROC will be right of the rightmost pole. So rightmost pole is this one. So ROC will be right of this. So it will be this. Okay, but it will not include this pole. That is just after the pole my ROC will start and it will go up to infinite. So this is how my ROC would look like if xt is an infinite duration right-sided signal. Similarly, if we take the reverse case, xt is infinite duration, but now it is left-sided signal. Okay, if it is left-sided signal, then ROC is left of leftmost pole. Okay, there was right of rightmost pole, here it will be left of leftmost pole. Okay, like if we plot again here, if we have 3 poles, then ROC would be left of leftmost pole. ROC would look something like this. Next, suppose if neither ROC is right-sided, neither the signal is right-sided nor the left-sided. Like this signal. This signal exists on both sides of the y-axis. Okay, it is defined for negative time as well as for the positive time, and on both sides it goes up to t is equal to infinity. So this is a both-sided signal. It is neither a left-sided signal nor a right-sided signal. So for this sort of signal, ROC is a strip between 2 poles. Okay, whenever the signal will be both-sided, ROC will be a strip between 2 poles like this. This strip, ROC for the point 6. Okay, such kind of ROC would be there. ROC would exist between only 2 poles. ROC will also not go up to infinite. Okay, and suppose if I give you multiple signals in addition and they do not have any intersection of ROC. Suppose, let me first rub this. Suppose I give you xt is equal to x1t plus x2t. Now, if we plot ROCs for these two signals, suppose x1t has a ROC like this. This will be ROC 1. And x2t has a ROC like this. So this will be ROC 2. Now if we see there is no common region between ROC1 and ROC2, that means Laplace transform does not exist, converge or exist. Okay, because if one of them would be converging, other would be diverging, and if other is converging, the first one would be diverging. So we cannot find the Laplace transform because anyways it will be infinity for one or the other signal. So whenever multiple signals are in addition, then you need to take the intersection of their region of convergence. Okay, next term we define as bilateral Laplace transform. So Laplace transform can be of two types, bilateral and unilateral. So first we are seeing bilateral Laplace transform. Bilateral means on both sides of the time axis, that is t can be negative as well as positive. So bilateral Laplace transform would be defined as xs would be minus infinity up to infinity xt e raised to power minus st dt. So since xt can go from minus infinity to infinity, it will be bilateral Laplace transform. Okay, so it can be found out for right-sided, left-sided and two-sided signal. Okay, that is the signals which exist to right of certain point, to left of certain point, or they exist on both the sided. Okay, so this can be defined for right-sided, left-sided and both-sided signals. Is it fine? But here bilateral Laplace transform and unilateral Laplace transform will be same for right-sided signals. So how it will be? First let us define unilateral Laplace transform. Unilateral Laplace transform is where t will only be greater than 0. So it will be 0 to infinity xt e raised power minus st dt. So here t can only attain positive values, so it will be a unilateral Laplace transform. Okay. So this can only be found for right-sided signal. Okay. Why only right-sided signal? Because suppose xt is left-sided. If xt is left-sided, then from 0 to infinity it would be 0. Okay. Left-sided signal is 0 when t belongs to 0 से infinity. So whenever t goes from 0 to infinity, xt would be 0 and its Laplace transform would also be 0. So this is my unilateral Laplace transform. So let us find unilateral or bilateral Laplace transform for a right-sided signal. So suppose if I give you a signal like, first let us find bilateral. If xt is given as e raised to power minus 2t ut, then due to this ut term, it is a right-sided signal because unit step function is right-sided. So if we find x as, it will be minus infinity up to infinity e raised to power minus 2t ut e raised to power minus st dt. Now due to this ut, it would be converted to 0 to infinity e raised to power minus 2t e raised to power minus st dt. Now if you see, this looks like a unilateral Laplace transform. This value would be 1 upon s plus 2 by the method that we used earlier, that e raised to power minus at ut has a Laplace transform 1 upon s plus a. But if you see, for right-sided signal, bilateral Laplace transform is converted to a unilateral Laplace transform. Is it fine? So most of the times we will find bilateral Laplace transform, but some of the times it may happen that bilateral Laplace transform may not be converging. Then only you can go for unilateral Laplace transform. But remember, unilateral Laplace transform can only be found for right-sided signal. Never apply it for any other type of signal except the right-sided signal. Okay. So now we have seen basics of the Laplace transforms. You need to remember some of the transforms or some of the functions whose transform you need to remember in the examination, because that can be used directly. So first such function is delta t. Delta t Laplace transform would be 1. Okay. Simply you can derive it as minus infinity up to infinity delta t e raised power minus st dt. Now we know by sampling property of impulse function, it would be e raised power minus s into 0, that is 1. So it is my Laplace transform for a impulse signal, and its ROC would be entire s plane. Okay, because nowhere it can go to infinity, so Laplace transform would be entire s plane. Next is unit step. Okay, for unit step signal, Laplace transform is 1 by s. So if you see, it would go to infinity at s is equal to 0. So ROC is entire plane except s is equal to 0. Okay, so how we can derive this? Minus infinity up to infinity ut e raised power minus st dt. So it would go to 0 to infinity e raised to power minus st dt. So it will be e raised power minus st by minus s, 0 up to infinity, so it will be 1. Okay, so this is how we can find. Otherwise, we know e raised power minus at ut gives 1 upon s plus a. Keep a as 0 here, then also we can find the Laplace transform for a unit step function. Is it fine? So just we have to keep a is equal to 0 in this expression. Next is t ut. The Laplace transform would be 1 upon s square. Okay, and its region of convergence would also be same, that is real part of s greater than 0. Because this is a right-sided signal, so ROC would be right-sided, but it cannot include origin, so it will be right of the origin. Okay, Similarly, if we keep on multiplying by t, let us say t raised to power n ut, it would be n factorial by s raised to power n plus 1. This is one of the most important transform that you always need to remember for t raised to power n ut. Okay, it will be n factorial by s raised to power n plus 1. ROC would remain same. Real part of s is greater than 0. Okay. Next is, suppose if a were not 0 here, t raised to power n e raised to power minus at ut, so it would be n factorial over s plus a raised to power n plus 1. Okay, there a is not equal to 0. So this is basically generalization of this, but its ROC would be real part of s is greater than minus a. Okay, because pole is at minus a, so real part of s should be greater than minus a. Is it fine? Also, you need to remember that if we keep a signal like this, minus t raised to power n u of minus t, then it would be same n factorial by s raised to power n plus 1, but ROC would be opposite. Okay, ROC just becomes opposite, but the transform remains the same. Okay, two more transform that you need to remember, which are very important, is one is cosine, another is sine. So cos of at has a Laplace transform s upon s square plus a square. Okay, cos of at into ut. This is also right sided signal, so its region of convergence is a real part of s is greater than 0. Next is sin at into ut. It will be a upon s square plus a square. Okay, these two transform you must always keep in mind because they always come in handy and many places they can be asked. Is it fine? So these are some of the transforms that you must always keep in mind, because in GATE examination you can always expect a question from Laplace transform, and there we will be using these transforms that we have derived just now. So let us summarize what we have learnt in this lecture. We first saw how we went from Fourier transform to Laplace transform. Okay, that is, we saw that e raised power st is also an eigenfunction where s need not necessarily be a imaginary value. Then we saw how to find the Laplace transform, that is analysis equation. Then we saw what is meant by region of convergence. Then we saw the properties of ROC, how we can directly find ROC of certain signals. Then we saw both bilateral and unilateral Laplace transform wherever they are applicable, like unilateral Laplace transform is applicable only for right-sided signal. And at last we saw some of the transforms that you need to remember. Okay, in the next lecture we will study the properties of the Laplace transform to make your life easier, so that we can directly find the Laplace transform of certain signals from known signals. Okay, that we will cover in the next lecture. Hello guys, in the last lecture what we saw is we started with the Laplace transform, and we saw how did we go from Fourier transform to Laplace transform. There I told you that generally e raised to power st functions are also eigenfunctions of an LTI system, where s can be any arbitrary value instead of just being imaginary value. Then we saw analysis equation of Laplace transform, that is xs is equal to minus infinity up to infinity xt e raised to power minus st dt. This is how we calculated the Laplace transform. We saw concept of ROC, region of convergence in case of Fourier transform. This is a region where the Fourier transform value converges, or it is a finite value. Okay, and we also saw some of the common transforms, like delta t transform is equal to 1, ut is 1 by s. and we also saw bilateral and unilateral Laplace transform. We saw that unilateral is only applicable for right-sided signal. Bilateral is applicable for both right, left and both sided signals. Okay. So in this lecture we will see some properties of the Laplace transform so that we can easily calculate the Laplace transform of another signal from some given signal. So first property is linearity. Linearity means x1t gives me a Laplace transform x1s. x2t gives me a Laplace transform x2s. Then we need to find the Laplace transform of a1 x1t plus a2 x2t. Now if we plug in this value into the equation for Laplace transform, then let us say x3s. So x3s would be equal to minus infinity up to infinity a1 x1t plus a2 x2t e raised power minus st dt. If we break the integration, we can write a1 integral minus infinity up to infinity x1t e raised power minus st dt plus a2 minus infinity up to infinity x2t e raised power minus st dt. Okay, so this is equal to, simply we can say x3s is equal to a1 x1s plus a2 x2s. Okay, so this is the property of linearity, and as we have seen with the other transforms like Fourier series and Fourier transform, this transform is also linear. Both the other Fourier transforms, Fourier series and Fourier transform that we studied up till now were also linear. This is also linear. So all the transforms that we are studying in the signal and system course will be linear. Next is the time scaling. So if you remember, in the Fourier transform I wrote x80 has a Fourier transform of 1 by a x of j omega by a, and Fourier transform is equal to Laplace transform given sigma is equal to 0. That I told you in the last lecture. Whenever real part of s is 0, the Laplace transform becomes Fourier transform. So similar property can hold in Laplace transform, that when we will take Laplace transform of x80, it will be 1 by mod a x of, but here instead of j omega we will have s x of s by a. So that is what I was telling you. Whenever you will memorize the properties, try to relate the properties between different transforms. Like this property is similar for Fourier transform as well as Laplace transform. It is just that in Fourier transform s will be replaced by j omega. Next property, let us come to time shifting. Again, if you see, if xt has a Laplace transform xs, then we need to find the Laplace transform of x of t minus t naught. So if you remember, in case of Fourier transform, x of t minus t naught has a Fourier transform equal to e raised power minus j omega t naught x j omega. Similarly, x of t minus t naught will have a Laplace transform e raised power minus s t naught x of s. Just I have replaced j omega by s. So this is the time shifting property in the Laplace transform. Okay. Otherwise, if you forget this property, the derivation will be similar to what we did in the case of Fourier transform. Just you have to use the integral and you will arrive at the same result. Next is the shifting in S domain or shifting in frequency domain. So if suppose let us again start with Fourier transform. If xt has a Laplace transform xs, we need to find the signal corresponding to x of s minus s naught. So in case of Fourier transform, I told you that e raised to power j omega naught t xt has a Fourier transform of x of omega minus omega naught. So replace j omega by s here. So it will be e raised to the power s naught t xt would have a Laplace transform equal to x of s minus s naught. Okay, this will be the Laplace transform for x of, or we will say the inverse Laplace for x of s minus s naught would be e raised to power s naught t xt. Okay, that is if I am shifting in frequency domain. I would like to know what is the value of signal in the time domain. So f x of s minus s naught is corresponding to a signal of e raised to power s naught t xt. Next property is about the differentiation in the time domain. So if you remember, in case of Fourier transform, d by dt of xt had a Fourier transform of j omega x omega. So similarly in Laplace transform, here we will replace j omega by s. So it will be s xs. Okay, but here we will also take care of the initial conditions. That is, suppose if I give you something like this, nth derivative. So this is important. In case of nth derivative, the Laplace transform would be s raised to the power n xs minus s raised to the power n minus 1 x0. This is the initial condition of xt, minus s raised to the power n minus 2 x dash 0. Okay, minus s raised to the power n minus 3 x double dash 0. So this will go on till we arrive at a constant term. Okay, so this is how we will take care of the initial conditions while taking the derivative. So this formula is very important because this will be used in networks as well as your mathematics course. Okay, so try to remember this expression for the derivative. This is a general expression, so you have to see what type of derivative are you taking, what is the order of differentiation to apply this expression. The opposite of this is when we will integrate in time domain. So if we integrate in time domain, x tau d tau, we saw the Fourier transform was xj omega by j omega. Similarly, in case of Laplace, the Laplace transform would be xs by s. But there is one change, that is the initial conditions. So it will come like this. The initial conditions would be taken care in Laplace transform. Okay, initial conditions of a signal. So this is the basic difference between Fourier transform and Laplace transform. Here, while applying differentiation and integration property, we need to take care of the initial condition. Next is differentiation in S domain. Okay, so we know xs is equal to minus infinity up to infinity xt e raised to power minus st dt. Now if we integrate both sides, differentiate both sides with respect to s, here the only term containing s is this. So it will be minus infinity up to infinity xt into minus s e raised to power minus st dt. It will be minus the derivative will be minus t, because we are differentiating with respect to s, not t. So it will be minus, or integral minus infinity to infinity minus t xt e raised to power minus st dt. So this derivative function is corresponding to a signal minus t xt. Okay, so the Laplace transform of minus t xt would be d by ds of xs, or what we can say is the Laplace transform of txt would be minus d by ds of xs. This will be the Laplace transform of txt. Next, suppose if we want to integrate in the time domain. So just the integrate in the s domain. So just the opposite property, xt by t will have a Laplace transform of minus s to infinity xs ds. This minus sign will be there in differentiation as well as integration property, but here we are taking xt by t, there we were taking txt. So this is how we perform differentiation and integration in the s domain. Okay, so let us move on to the next property. Next property is convolution. So we saw in Fourier transform that convolution in time domain leads to multiplication in frequency domain. Same property will be valid here, that if we want to find Laplace transform of x1 convolved with x2, it will be x1s multiplied by x2s. Multiplication in frequency domain is convolution in time domain, and multiplication in frequency domain is convolution in time domain, and multiplication in time domain would be convolution in frequency domain. So if we take x1t into x2t, this will correspond to convolution in frequency domain, that is 1 by 2 pi x1s convolution with x2s. So this is how we can find the Laplace transform for convolution and multiplication. Again, this equation will be called as convolution theorem. This will be called as multiplication theorem. So next we come on to the initial value theorem and final value theorem. So suppose if I want to find the initial value or the final value of a signal. Initial value means x of 0, final value means x of infinity. So that if you have a time function, that is if you know xt, then you can directly find x0 and x infinity by substituting the value of t as 0 and infinity. So by the knowledge of xt, I can easily calculate these values. But suppose if I want to calculate these values by the knowledge of xs instead of xt, then one of the methods that you can apply is first find xt from that xs and then plug in these values. Or the smarter way of doing that is using initial value and final value theorem. So initial value theorem says x0 plus is limiting s tending to infinity s into xs. So whenever time tends to 0, frequency tends to infinity. This will be my initial value theorem. Similarly, final value theorem states x infinity is limiting s tending to 0 sxs. Okay, so here just you need to remember, when time tends to infinity, frequency tends to 0. Time tends to 0, frequency tends to infinity, but the value remains the same. So this is the initial value and final value theorem for causal signal. Okay, that is the signal that will exist from 0 up to infinity. That will be a causal signal, and these two theorems are applicable for the causal signal. Now if there is anti-causal signal, okay, anti-causal signal means it will exist from minus infinity to 0. Again, this will be like this only, limiting s tending to infinity s into xs. But now anti-causal exists from minus infinity up to 0. So this will be basically final value theorem, because 0th value is the final value for an anti-causal signal. Similarly, x of minus infinity would be limiting s tending to 0 sxs. Now minus infinity is the initial value for this, so this will be initial value theorem. So the values remain the same, just the value initial value theorem and final value theorem are interchanged, because the definition of initial and final value is opposite for causal and anti-causal signal. Okay, but one thing that must be kept in mind before applying this initial value and final value theorem is that the axis, the Laplace transform should be in proper order. That is, axis should be in the form, suppose PS by QS, then order of PS should be less than order of QS. Okay, order of denominator must be higher than the order of numerator. So first you must express axis in such a way that numerator order is less than denominator, then only you can apply initial and final value theorem. Okay, first you must express it in such a way. Next is, so this is for both IVT and FVT, initial value and final value theorem. For final value theorem, system must be stable. Okay, so for FVT, system must be stable. Okay, because if you are finding the value at t is equal to infinity, then that value first of all must be finite, that must be bounded, and bounded output would only come when the system is stable. That I told you in LTI systems, that Bebo's stability concept is there. Whenever we apply bounded input, we are bound to get a bounded output for a stable system. So stable system means output would be bounded. So this happens when poles lie in left half plane. In the last class I told you about the poles. Poles are the points where the transfer function goes to infinity. Okay, so those poles must lie in the left half plane. That is, if I give you a plot of something like this for poles, one here, one here and one here, this pole is in right half plane, system is unstable, and FVT is not applicable. You cannot apply final value theorem here. So if any pole lies in the right half plane, final value theorem cannot be applied. Okay, so if I give you in terms of transfer function, suppose HS is given like S plus 3 by 2 over S plus 1 S minus 2. Poles are S is equal to minus 1 and S is equal to 2. This pole is in right half plane, so final value theorem can never be applied. So before applying final value theorem, you must check whether all poles are in the left half plane or not. Otherwise, final value theorem cannot be applied. So this is one of the common mistakes that many students do. They never check whether final value theorem is applicable or not. They will just apply it and find the value of x infinity. Next, move on to how to find causality of the system using Laplace transform. We know the signal is causal or the system is causal if ht is equal to 0 for all t less than 0. This was the definition of causality in terms of impulse response. So now we will see how we can say a signal or a system is causal based on Laplace transform. Okay, so we will say causal when Hs is right sided. Okay, or we will say ROC is right of rightmost pole. Okay, because for all causal signals are right sided. Causal signals are always right sided. And when we were studying ROC in the last lecture, I told you right sided signal has a ROC which is right of the rightmost pole. Since causal signals are right sided, the ROC must be right of the rightmost pole. That is, let us take an example. If Hs is equal to 1 by s square plus 5s plus 6, it is 1 by s plus 3 into s plus 2. So it is like this, minus 3 minus 2. So ROC must be right of rightmost pole. Rightmost pole is minus 2. ROC should be something like this for the system to be causal. Okay, so causality can be identified by looking at the ROC. If the ROC is right sided, that means signal would also be right sided and it will be causal. Okay, but if you cannot express Hs in the rational form like this, then you need to use the time domain causality, which is this condition. So this is time domain causality and this is frequency domain causality or Laplace domain causality. So again I am repeating, a signal or a system would be causal if the transfer function or the Laplace transform has an ROC which is right of the rightmost pole. Okay, but if ROC is left of the leftmost pole, then it will be anti-causal signal. Okay, if ROC is left of leftmost pole, then it will be an anti-causal signal. So anti-causal will be left of leftmost pole. ROC of the Laplace transform of anti-causal signal is left of leftmost pole. So this is how we can differentiate between causal and anti-causal signal. Is it fine? So if we take another example, suppose if I give you Hs as e raised to power 3s upon s plus 2. Now this is not in the form of a rational function. Okay, it is not in the form of a rational function because rational functions have numerator and denominator in terms of polynomial. Here we have an exponential function, so it is not a rational function. So suppose if we want to take the inverse transform, okay, if I want to find ht, now we know 1 upon s would have an inverse ut. So 1 upon s plus 2 would have an inverse e raised to power minus 2t ut. Okay, now this e raised to power 3s is due to, e raised to power 3s would be due to, it would be due to shifting. We already know that xt minus t naught gives me e raised power minus s naught t. So e raised power minus xt minus t naught would be e raised power minus s t naught xs. This would be the Laplace transform of x of t minus t naught. Now here I know that 1 upon s plus 2 would give me this e raised power minus 2t ut. Then e raised power 3s is there. That means t naught is equal to minus 3. Okay, if e raised power 3s is there, t naught would be equal to minus 3. So the inverse would be ht would be shift this signal by minus 3. E raised power minus 2 t plus 3 u of t plus 3. Okay, now here ht is not equal to 0 for t less than 0 because ht exists from minus 3 up to infinity. So this is non-causal. So whenever we are talking about causality in frequency domain, we must take care that the function is expressed in as a rational function. If the function is not rational, then the causality can be determined only in the time domain. Is it fine? So this is how we identify the causality of a LTI system. Next is the stability. Now stability, I told you, in case of time domain was identified on the basis of Bibo criteria, bounded input and bounded output. There I told you that impulse response must be absolutely integrable. It must be some finite value or less than infinity. That I told you that impulse response is absolutely integrable. Then only we can say that my system is stable. Okay, so if we say Hs is equal to minus infinity up to infinity ht e raised to power minus st dt. So if you put s is equal to 0, we will get h0 as minus infinity up to infinity ht dt. Okay, so if mod ht is finite, that means h0 would also be finite. For Bibo stability, H0 is finite. Okay. Now if H0 is finite, that means H of S converges at S is equal to 0. Or we will say S is equal to 0 lies in the ROC. If HS is converging for S is equal to 0, then S is equal to 0 must lie in the ROC. Or we will say that the imaginary axis lies in the ROC. Okay. J omega axis lies in ROC. If such a thing happens, then only the system is stable. Okay. And if j omega axis lies in the ROC, that means Fourier transform will also exist, because whenever S is equal to j omega, Laplace transform is converted to Fourier transform. So we will say if S is equal to j omega, we will have the Fourier transform will be derived from the Laplace transform. And if j omega axis lies in the ROC, then only Fourier transform can be calculated, because then only you can keep S is equal to j omega. So if the system is stable, then only Fourier transform can be calculated. Okay. That is why I told you it must be absolutely integrable in the Dirichlet condition for the Fourier transform. So system must be stable for the Fourier transform to exist. And for Fourier transform to exist, S is equal to j omega. So the condition for stability is j omega axis must lie inside the ROC. Okay, if j omega axis lies inside the ROC, we will have two conclusions, that the system is stable and Fourier transform can also be calculated. Is it fine? So that means if we talk about a rational function, if we talk about rational functions, we will say that ROC should not include any poles. Okay, ROC should not include any poles. And suppose I give you a causal and stable LTI system. Is it fine? Let us say the poles are like this. If the transfer function is causal, we will say ROC is like this. This will be ROC for a causal signal. Okay. But here if you see, this j omega axis is not included in ROC. So it is unstable type of system. If j omega axis is not included in ROC, it is unstable. Now let us shift this pole into the left half plane. Okay. Let me say that this pole lies somewhere around here. So this ROC would be this thing. Okay. Now j omega axis is included in ROC. So this is causal plus stable. So any causal and stable LTI system would have all the poles lying in the left half plane. None of the poles must lie in the right half plane. All poles lie in left half plane. So then the system would be causal as well as stable. Is it fine? So to judge the causality and stability simultaneously, we will say that all poles must lie in the left half plane. Causality condition is ROC must be right of the rightmost pole. Stability condition is ROC must include j omega axis. Okay. Next, let us see how we can calculate Laplace transform for a periodic signal. First of all, periodic signals, when we saw the definition, are everlasting. That is, they exist from minus infinity up to infinity. Okay. But if you calculate bilateral transform for this, if we calculate bilateral Laplace transform, it will never converge. Okay. For periodic signals, bilateral Laplace transform will not converge. So here we will use unilateral Laplace transform. Okay. So first of all, how we will calculate this? We will take one period. Suppose if I give you sine, okay, we will take up to only 0 up to 2 pi. We will not consider it as periodic. We will take only one period and we will find, let us say ft, we will find Laplace transform fs. Then for periodic signal, that is, it will be f of s over 1 minus e raised to the power minus st, where t is the time period. Okay. So first what we will do is, we will convert a periodic signal into aperiodic signal. calculate the Laplace transform and then divide by 1 minus e raised to power minus st, where t is the time period. So this is how we can calculate the Laplace transform of a periodic signal. This must be kept in mind because sometimes the direct question may come on this expression. So let us see what we have covered in this lecture is, we saw some of the properties like linearity, time shifting, time scaling, frequency shifting, differentiation in both time and Laplace domain, integration again in both time and Laplace domain, and last we saw convolution theorem. Then we saw how we can identify causality and stability by using Laplace transform. Causality is when the ROC is right of the rightmost pole. Stability is when ROC includes the j omega axis. Last we saw how to deal with periodic signals in Laplace domain, or how to find the Laplace transform of periodic signals. So this is all about the Laplace transform. And one more thing that we saw is initial value theorem and final value theorem. So this is very important because directly questions can be framed from initial and final value theorems. So this is all about Laplace transform. In the next lecture, we'll solve some problems that have come in GATE from this topic, so that you get an idea about what kind of questions can be framed in this topic. Okay. So till then, try to remember or try to memorize the properties of the Laplace transform, and also you need to cover this causality, stability and initial final value theorem. These two are very important. Okay. So try to memorize properties and these two things. Hello guys, in the last lecture we completed our chapter Laplace transform. There we saw how we can find the Laplace transform, and we also saw some of the properties of the Laplace transform. As well as we saw how we can define the system characteristics like causality and stability in the Laplace domain. So this video is intended to give you an insight so that you can solve problems based on the Laplace transform that have come in GATE. So these all problems are from GATE previous years only. So you will get to know what kind of problems are asked in GATE from the Laplace transform. Basically the problems are very basic. You just need to remember the properties and the method of finding the Laplace transform. So let us start with our first problem. Here we need to find Laplace transform of a unit ramp function starting at t is equal to a. Okay. So unit ramp function at t is equal to a would be something like this. Here this point would be a, and this would be, let us say, y versus t. So y would be equal to t minus a into ut minus a. This will be my y. So Laplace transform of y would be, simply it is time shifted function of tut. Original function would be tut. It is shifted in time by an amount a, and because of time shifting, if xt has a Laplace transform xs, x of t minus t naught has e raised to power minus s t naught into xs. So this will be equal to e raised to power minus as upon s square, because tat has 1 by s square. Okay. So this will be the Laplace transform of a unit ramp function starting at t is equal to a, because tut has a Laplace transform of 1 by s square. So that is why you need to remember common Laplace transforms and their properties. Moving on to the next problem. Here we have been given a Laplace transform of ft. We need to find f0 plus and f infinity. f0 plus is basically initial value theorem. F infinity can be found from final value theorem. So let us first concentrate on f0 plus. It is equal to limiting s tending to infinity, s into f of s is equal to limiting s tending to infinity 2s square plus 2s upon s square plus 2s plus 5. Take s square common from numerator and denominator. Limiting s tending to infinity, 2 plus 2 by s plus upon 1 plus 2 by s plus 5 by s square. Now the terms which have s in the denominator, as s tends to infinity, will go to 0. So it will be 2. Now if we wish to calculate f infinity, it will be limiting s tending to 0 sfs, that is limiting s tending to 0 s into 2s plus 1 upon s square plus 2s plus 5. Now as you put s is equal to 0, this term will go to 0. So final value will come out to be 0. Initial value is 2, final value is 0. In the next problem, we have been given a Laplace transform of ft and gt, and we need to find Laplace transform of convolution of ft and gt. Now I know ft convolved with gt is equal to ht. Taking Laplace transform both sides, hs is equal to, by convolution theorem, fs into gs. Okay, so if we do fs into gs, it will be s plus 2 divided by s square plus 1 into s square plus 1 by s plus 3 s plus 2. So this will get cancelled out. So it will be 1 upon s plus 3. If we wish to find ht also, we can say ht would be e raised to power minus 3t ut. Okay, it would be e raised to power minus 3t ut. So this is how we can find the impulse response, or this is how we can find the output of a system using the Laplace transform. Is it fine? Next is the inverse Laplace transform of the function. Now the most commonly used Laplace transform is e raised to power minus at ut. Its Laplace transform is 1 upon s plus a. Okay, so now if I can express this function in terms of this terms 1 upon s plus a, then we can easily find the inverse Laplace. So that can be done using the partial fraction method. That is s plus 5 upon s plus 1 into s plus 3 can be written as a upon s plus 1 plus b upon s plus 3. Okay, so this a can be, if you calculate, it will be, if you take the LCM, it will be a plus bs plus 3a plus b is equal to s plus 5. So a plus b is equal to 1, 3a plus b is equal to 5. Okay, so it implies that by solving this, a will come out to be 2, b will come out to be minus 1. Okay, so now we can directly write it as this function is 2 upon s plus 1 minus 1 upon s plus 3. Okay, so if we take inverse Laplace here, s plus 1 is e raised to power minus t ut, 2 e raised to power minus t ut, s plus 3 is e raised to power minus 3t ut. Okay, this will be my function value. Is it fine? So this is how we can calculate the inverse Laplace transform by using the partial fraction technique. Whenever Laplace transform is given in rational form, better dissociate into its factor and then find the inverse Laplace using the already known transform. Mostly you need to remember e raised to power minus at into ut. Next is the Laplace transform of continuous time signal xt is given as xs 5 minus s s square minus s minus 2. If Fourier transform also exists, we need to find xt. So let us first simplify it. 5 minus s, this can be written as s square minus 2s plus s minus 2. 5 minus s over s minus 2 s plus 1. Is it fine? So this needs to be taken in the form of partial fraction. So if we do partial fraction, it will come out to be 1 upon s minus 2 minus 2 upon s plus 1. Okay. Now if you see here, it has two poles. One is at minus 1, other is at 2. Okay. Now it has said that Fourier transform of the signal exists. Now Fourier transform exists only when s is equal to j omega lies in the ROC. S is equal to j omega must be in the ROC, then only Fourier transform can exist. Now this, it can have three regions: ROC, one region, other region between the two poles, and the third region behind minus 1. Out of this, which should be the ROC? ROC should be the one which includes the j omega axis, that is between these two poles. This should be the ROC of the signal, because this includes s is equal to j omega, which implies that Fourier transform of the signal will exist. Now if you see, it is to the left of 2 and it is to the right of minus 1. Since it is to the left of 2, that means this signal is left sided, and since it is to the right of minus 1, it is right sided. So if we take inverse, it will be minus e raised to power minus 2t u of minus t. It should be left sided. Okay. Minus 2 e raised to power minus t ut. This should be right sided. This should be left sided. Right sided because ROC lies to the right of minus 1. Left sided is because ROC lies to the left of 2. Okay. And we saw also during our lectures that minus e raised to power minus at u of minus t has the Laplace transform 1 upon s plus a. Okay. Similar to e raised to power minus at ut. So that is how I have taken the inverse Laplace transform. Okay. So next, moving on to the next problem. Here we need to find the Laplace transform of a rectangular pulse of duration t and magnitude 1. Now rectangular waveform of duration t and magnitude 1 would be something like this: t 1. This will be my xt versus t. Okay. If we need to find Laplace transform, x of s would be minus infinity up to infinity xt e raised to power minus st dt. So it will be 0 to t 1 e raised to power minus st dt. So if we integrate it, e raised to power minus st by minus s from 0 to t, if we substitute the limits, it will be 1 minus e raised to power minus st upon s. Okay. This signal is also called as zero order hold system. Okay. So if you anywhere find what is the transfer function of a zero order hold system, you can directly write as this. Okay. Zero order hold means it will be 1 from 0 to t. So why zero order hold is used? Basically, it is used to reconstruct a signal from its samples. So what happens? Suppose if I give you samples of a signal. Okay, let us say these are the samples. These are the samples of a signal. If I want to reconstruct this signal, what I will do is, I will assume up to here constant at this, then this, then this, then this, then this, like this. I can construct in terms of this way. So the red one will be your continuous signal and your blue one was the samples. Now here what we have done is, we have interpolated the signal and we have assumed it constant between the two samples. That is called as zero order hold. That is, whatever is the value here, I am holding this value till the next sample. Okay, holding this value, and since it is constant, so it will be of zeroth order. First order is linear, second order is parabola. Since it is constant, it is zeroth order. So I am holding the zeroth order value. So it is called as zero order hold system. It is used to reconstruct a signal from its samples. Okay, moving on to the next problem. Here yt is given as minus infinity to t xt dash dt dash. Okay. Now we know if we take Laplace transform of this, ys would be equal to xs by s by the property of integration in time domain. Now let us see, it has no finite singularities in the Laplace transform ys. Singularity means where the function goes to infinity. So I can say that ys is equal to infinity as s is equal to 0. That means this statement is incorrect. From this function it is clear, as s tends to 0, ys tends to infinity. So s is equal to 0 is a singularity of ys. Next, it produces bounded output for every causal bounded input. Okay. It cannot produce bounded output. Why? Because let us say xt is equal to ut if we substitute. Then integrator would be 0 to t 1 dt dash, it would be t. Now as t tends to infinity, yt tends to infinity, though the original signal was bounded. So even if the input was bounded, output is unbounded, hence this system is unstable, or this second statement is incorrect. Okay. Next is bounded output for every anti-causal bounded input. For anti-causal signal, we can assume xt as u of minus t. Instead of ut, assume xt is equal to u of minus t. Then this integration yt would become minus infinity up to 0 1 into dt dash. So this would be infinite. It is also not bounded. And last is it has no finite zeros in double-sided Laplace transform ys. Okay. If we see s is equal to infinity, ys is 0. So the 0 of the function is at infinite. So the function does not have any finite zeros. The 0 lies at s is equal to infinity. So this statement is true. The 0 of the ys lies at infinity. Poles are the points where function goes to infinity. Zeros are the point where function goes to 0. In the next problem, we have been given a Fourier ft is equal to Laplace inverse of this. We need to find k if limiting ft tending to infinity is 1. T tending to infinity, ft, it is actually final value. So I can say limiting s tending to 0, sfs is equal to 1. So if we take limiting s tending to 0, s into fs would be this value. It will be 3s plus 1 over s cube plus 4s square plus k minus 3 s. So this at s would get cancelled out with this. It is equal to 1. So it would be 1 by 0 plus 0 plus k minus 3. It is equal to 1. So k would be equal to 4. So this is how we can calculate the k by using final value theorem. So the questions based on initial and final value theorem are very common from the Laplace transform. They can be asked in the 1 mark type of problems. Mostly 2 marks problems are rare in Laplace transform because the properties are too small and it is a very basic kind of transform. 2 mark question you can expect from Fourier transform instead of Laplace transform. Let us move on to the last problem. Here we need to find the final value of the ys. Now if you see, ys has 2 poles, that is s is equal to 0 and s is equal to 1. Now I told you in the previous lecture, for applying final value theorem, all poles must lie in left half plane. But here if you see, s is equal to 1 is in right half plane. It implies fvt is invalid or final value does not exist. Okay. In such kind of problems, always there will be one option where it would be written does not exist. So you need to mark that option, that final value does not exist, because system is unstable or unbounded. Is it fine? So these sort of questions can be asked in the GATE examination, but the questions from Laplace transform are very basic and it does not carry very much high weightage because it is a tool which will be used in control systems. So Laplace transform can be asked in conjunction with control systems, not necessarily independently. So many questions are coming in GATE examination from Fourier transform and Z transform. In the next chapter we will see what is Z transform and what are the different properties and how we can characterize the system in terms of Z transform. Okay, till then practice some problems on Laplace transform because you need to be proficient in this transform as it is a tool for many other subjects.